It was April 4th, 1989, 11 months before my 22nd birthday when I got on my knees and I asked God to let me die.
Hit the boogie woogie, hit the jive, do a little twist and dance all night.
When Scott offered me the job, the first thing he did was he goes, I need Taylor out on your radio tour. They didn't have the work ethic or the desire to want that Taylor had. When I left, was managing young artists, they were getting to go open for Little Big Town. And people were like, why are you taking this artist? They're like, Rick took a shot on us when no one else took a shot on us. We need artists today to spend more time on your building of you and your brand and your audience as much, if not more, than the music. The problem the labels are running into, they see you pop off on TikTok and they signed you because your song went viral, and then they get you and realize, man, this guy's got a lot of work that needs to be done. I'm working with an artist right now. Her name's Jordana Bryant. She's writing songs that she probably shouldn't be writing at this age. Vocally, absolutely amazing. She's her generation's voice now. She's not the next Taylor Swift. What she is I think she's the next artist who will have the impact on fans the way that Taylor has an impact on fans.
This is the One Sheet presented by DistroKid. I am Kyle Fortch, and on today's episode, the man sitting next to me, he is an entrepreneur, an author, the host of the Music Industry Blueprint podcast. He is a music executive who has been a radio promoter and a label advisor. He's the former manager of superstar Taylor Swift and has gone on to help thousands of artists across the world. Mr. Rick Barker.
Thank you so much, Kyle, for having me.
I appreciate
Thanks for coming this side of the border.
I had to get over here at some point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's good to finally meet in person. We were talking about that. It's the power of the internet, where I've only known you as a little square on my Instagram page, either typing answers to other people's questions or helping validate what I was saying, or popping on to ask your own questions. So Instagram Live, the co-sponsor of Meta. Yeah.
Pay me.
Yeah, that's right.
No, it's funny. I think that was 2016, 17 when you really started going hard on Instagram in terms of the lives. And that's when, I think that was really when you started building the social media and starting to.
It was. And what had happened is at that time, Facebook was the only other live option. You couldn't even do YouTube Live at that point. But Instagram has always been, I always tell people, you need to be present everywhere, but find one you want to be active on. And when Instagram went live, I'm like, man, I'm sitting outside, I'm having a cigar, I'm doing emails. Why not just pop it on, go live, see who's out there? I mean, it also allowed me to even become more of an expert in my space. It's like people can read about what you've done, and we can write a nice introduction with all these accolades and all this stuff. But I think today people need to hear you. Yeah. People need to understand that you can also solve their problems. Because I always tell people too, it's like, yay, I was with Taylor. Well, what have I done for people like you? Yeah. That's what you should be wanting to know. I always got pissed, and you would hear it too, when people would want to hear Taylor stories. I'm like, that doesn't serve you. What, how are you stuck right now? Yeah. What can we do to help you? So that's what I love this style and this opportunity is, because now we can serve a bigger audience. Yeah. And
we can sit here all day and talk about Taylor, but that's not
correct.
I mean, you've talked about it so much for
go to my YouTube
years?
channel. I just did 2.5 hours. I called it Pre-Eras.
Yep.
Helping launch the teenager. Yep. You know,
I went through that. I'm like, well, we don't need to talk about this.
Put a link in the link in the show notes.
I'm sure there'll be stuff that we reference.
Absolutely.
But the stories are there for people to meet. And one thing I want to say is I've respected you since we met, for largely not because you were Taylor Swift's manager, not because you worked with Scott Borchetta and Big Machine or these major labels, but one thing that really hit home to me, especially now, is you've struggled with, or you used to struggle with substance abuse, and you turned your life around, and that hit me even harder because in the time that we met, I lost both my parents to substance abuse.
Wow.
My dad overdosed and my mom with alcohol, and in between that, cousin, friends. So substance abuse is a big thing, and someone like yourself who was able to turn it around, and not just turn it around, but make it into something bigger. You have a story behind the Taylor Swift, behind Big Machine, behind radio tours, behind helping thousands of artists. Yeah. And that is something that's inspiring. And also, I know from a child's standpoint, I know that your family can look at you and be like, I'm so proud of you for turning everything around.
First off, I'm super sorry for your loss. I wasn't aware of that. And one, I never knew that they struggled. And that brings me to the next point, is that I'm open about it because, one, I never know if someone that's listening is dealing with it themselves, has someone they love that's dealing with it, but don't give up on them. You know, at some point, the disease will take over if you let it.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate that that's what happened with you. I was at an event yesterday and I was speaking, and they had the video playing all the different things I did and had my walkout music. And I walk out and I look at him and I said, it was April 4th, 1989, 11 months before my 22nd birthday, when I got on my knees and I asked God to let me die. I was so addicted to crack cocaine. I didn't feel that I could kick it on my own. And I felt that maybe God would be so disappointed in me that he would do it for me. And it was the next day that I was actually born, because at that point, my whole time that I should have been in college, I was running the streets. I was selfish. I was a manipulator. I was a thief. I was a liar. I sold drugs. I did everything that I could to get over on someone else in order to benefit me. And when I started my presentation that way, they all paused, and I'm like, so I'm here to tell you a couple things. One, your past does not define your future. I am absolute living proof of that. And how could I go from living homeless on the streets, addicted to crack cocaine, to helping launch one of the biggest stars in the world when I didn't finish high school because of drugs, when I didn't go to college because of drugs? Is because I ended up not letting drugs define me. Now, I didn't get it all figured out. I went to jail 3.5 years sober because, respectfully, I thought I needed to drink in order to drive because I was so high. I needed to neutralize myself. And then I got 3 DUIs in a month and a half. And I just felt it was God telling me, look, dude, you don't get it. I gave you a chance.
Yeah.
Now you're going to get drunk. You're going to get high. And then you're ultimately going to end up killing yourself. So that's when, I had to go to jail off of those 3 DUIs on March 17th of 1992. That's my sober birthday. Wow. I think it's kind of ironic, though, because it's also one of the biggest drinking holidays in the world in St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, I guess that is too.
Yeah, so it took a couple things for me. It took me wanting to die to reach one bottom. It took me going to jail to realize that I needed to quit drugs altogether. But I wasn't done being a knucklehead, because I've always been that person who, the justifier. I don't even know if there's a description for this person, but I was the justifier. I'm like, okay, well, if I'm not drinking, I know I don't have a driver's license, but I can drive because I'm not going to get pulled over. I ended up getting pulled over 3 times for like a busted taillight or rolling through a stop sign, and I kept violating my probation. And then a judge finally came to me and he's like, dude, what part of no means no? I don't care if you're on the radio. I don't care that you're the #1 DJ in Santa Barbara. You don't understand that you are no better than anyone else. And I got sentenced to 11 months in county jail. And I ended up only having to do 4, but I spent a Thanksgiving, I spent a Christmas, I spent a New Year's in jail. And that's when my life officially changed. That's when I realized that I am no better than anyone else, because they're being told when to use the bathroom. I'm being told when to use the bathroom. They're being told where they can go. I'm being told where. It doesn't matter what our backgrounds are. It doesn't matter about anything. You are equal to that other person. And it was in jail that I ended up finding my sponsor. I mean, I went to jail 3.5 years sober. That's how stupid I was. I sold drugs, ran the streets, did crazy stuff, never got caught. And I end up in jail for violating a probation, driving on a suspended license. Crazy. But once again, another life lesson that I'm not owed anything. You're not owed anything.
Exactly.
I'm no better than you. You're no better than me. How can we serve people? And that's where I developed a servant's mentality, was in jail. That's where I realized that I've been given a blessing, and now I need to go impact as many people as I possibly can. And it just turned out that music and the music business was my vehicle.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not here to put religion on anyone. That just happens to be my story. But when they say the Lord works in mysterious ways, I never would have said, oh, you're going to get addicted to drugs. Your parents are going to be divorced 5 times each. You're going to end up almost dying. You're going to end up going to jail. And by the way, here's this little 15-year-old. We're going to make you the person responsible for teaching her the music business. And she's going to go on to have impact and impact billions of people. Yeah. And I played one small little hair of a role in that.
I mean, I feel like you played a bigger role in the music industry in general, though. One thing that stuck out to me is the Nashville to You radio tour, where it was the first radio tour that actually paid artists.
Right.
So how are the artists getting paid? Was it the label? Was it
no?
I assume it's not the radio stations paying them because
So what happens is radio tour is very expensive. Basically, especially in country music, it's very relationship built.
Right.
It's like they want to feel that they know you. They want to feel that they know the artist. So the record company, when you're an artist, and I just signed Kyle to my label, and I'm like, okay, Kyle, we're going to go in the studio. We're going to record a few songs. And then for 6 months, you're going to go out and you're going to hook up with the regional promoter, and we're going to go introduce you, and you're going to meet as many people as you can at these radio stations. So as a program director at a radio station, when I built a country station in 2001, all these artists started coming through the station. Now, I had been doing radio for 15 years. Radio is my passion. That's all I ever wanted to do. I sucked as a musician. I could not sing. I didn't have the discipline or the patience to learn an instrument, but I loved music. And I was like, I want to be the DJ.
Great voice for radio, too.
Well, when my voice changed, I was like, oh, God, I can do that. I can do that. And people used to always say, wow, you got a great voice. I'm like, okay, radio, that's what it is that I'm going to do. So when they started bringing the artists by, I would ask questions. Usually I was the last visit that day. So they would visit like LA and Ventura, and then they would get to where I was in Santa Barbara, and then they would stay all night and then get up the next morning and drive to Bakersfield and drive to Fresno. I said, why don't we put them on stage? Because I had a little bar that was in my town. It was a small little town right above Santa Barbara, the San Ynez Valley, for anybody who's ever watched the movie. What was the movie? It just slipped my mind. The wine movie, Sideways.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the movie Sideways. I don't know how I forgot it, because everywhere it says featured in the movie Sideways in that little town. We had a cool little bar. It was a small town, but we had this one little bar. And I started hearing things from the record promoters like, well, they don't have enough material to be able to play. And I was like, wait, you signed an artist to a record deal that can't play for 30 minutes? So I was getting that objection. And then the other one was, well, no one will know who they are, so no one will show up. And I'm like, but wait, if I play them and get people excited about them, then people will show up.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we'd have to bring out a player and all this other stuff. I said, well, what if I could get it paid? They're like, how are you going to do that? I said, let me worry about that. So I called up a whole bunch of radio stations, and I said, hey, my name's Rick. I'm a program director in Santa Barbara. If I was able to get us an artist on the charts, bottom of the charts, to come out west, because it's expensive to come from Nashville out to the West Coast. Yeah. So we didn't get the people like everyone else got the people. I said, but if I can get them, would you be able to put up $1,500, 3 hotel rooms and dinner? And they were like, let me go talk to my sales manager. Now, they would put me in touch with the sales manager, and the sales manager says, great. We know one of our clients, Kyle, he's got the Fortch bar, and he spends money with us. So, yeah, we'll get Kyle to put up the $1,500, and we'll get another sponsor to put up dinner, and we'll get another sponsor to put up the hotel room. So all of a sudden, I got like Bakersfield, Sacramento, Los Angeles, all these massive markets. San Jose was one of the early supporters. And I called the label and I said, I've got 7 places. They're like, wait, you found 7 radio stations to put up the money? I said, yeah. They're like, radio stations usually make us pay for everything. I said, well, it's because you're talking to the wrong person. Yeah. I'm talking to the sales manager. You're talking to the program director. The sales manager, and by me being in radio, and this is a lesson for any business people out there, when you know your business and know that the decisions are made by the money.
Yeah.
The money dictates the business, and the only way radio stations make money is through advertising. So they're going to make me, the program director, play the heck out of that artist because they can't lose Kyle.
Yeah.
They can't lose his bar. They can't lose his money that he's spending every month. So they were blown away. They flew me out to Nashville. I met with all the heads of the labels. They were excited. I go back to my little radio station in San Ynez. I'm still a program director at this time, and not a single person called.
Wow.
And that's what I said. I'm like, wait a minute. Thanks for flying me to Nashville. Thanks for putting me up at the Lowe's. Thanks for the steak dinner at Ruth Chris. But what's the problem? I thought you guys said it was a great idea. They said, well, what happens is during the summer, all of the superstars at the label are on tour because that's where the artists are making their money is during the summer. They're doing the touring.
Right.
They're like, we need the radio reps to be with them running meet and greets and schmoozing the radio stations. I said, so wait a minute. Now, I always tell people I'm never the smartest guy in the room, but I'm going to ask questions. And if I can find a solution to a problem, I'm going to try to solve it. That's just how I've always been. And I was like, so the kid who just signed a record deal, who's accumulating debt by recording, radio tour, all this stuff, now they can't go out because they have to wait because there's no one there to take them. And they said, basically, that's it. I said, well, what if I took them on the first tour? I'm the one who's called these stations.
Right.
I'm the one that built the relationship. So I get a phone call. There's a little kid named Josh Turner, got a song called Long Black Train. I'm like, even I Can't Screw This Up is a great song. He ended up being the first artist that we took out, and he went back to Nashville with $7,500. He took tear-offs, like little black and white 8x10s that they usually give away at the radio stations. We sold them for $5 a piece.
Nice.
Put extra money in his pocket. His wife was his keyboard player, so she came out with him on the tour. All the different stations did something really special for them. And in my town, we're known for tri-tip. So we took them tri-tip, we took them wine tasting.
Nice.
Other artists, we'd take golfing or pig hunting or whatever it is that they wanted to do. And word got back in Nashville that all the artists started talking to each other. They're like, dude, you need to go find this guy.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, I'm working with Little Big Town and Sugarland and all these bands that went on to win Grammys early on in the 2000s. When they first started, they were part of that Nashville 2 radio tour. And that's what put me on the radar of Scott Borchetta, because I had taken a couple of his artists out when he was still with Mercury. Sugarland actually came from Scott, and he said, hey, I'm starting this label. I need somebody like you. I've got 3 artists, 2 of them, no one's ever really heard of.
Yeah.
One of them's 15 years old. She's a female. At the time, country music was not supporting female artists the way that they support female artists today. And he said, I think you'd be perfect for this. And once again, lesson, if you can solve a problem that someone else has, you can get paid.
Yeah.
You can make a name for yourself. You don't have to sit around and wait for people to come to you. Identify the problem, become the solution, and your life will change.
Yeah. That the tour, the way you described the tour, like going doing things that interest them, the steak dinners and everything like that, the golfing, that's it compares to player recruitment in sports.
Yes.
When I look at it.
Yeah.
Whether it's these NCAA teams flying kids out for campus visits,
and who usually ends up getting that recruit is who they connected with the most, who they felt the most cared about them. Because all these stations provide airplay. All these stations, all these colleges provide education. It's like, and I'd never looked at it like that. You're absolutely right. It's when somebody sits there and says, that person went out of their way to make me feel special. They don't forget about it. And it helped. I mean, when I left Taylor, moved to town, was managing young artists, they were getting to go open for Little Big Town. And people were like, why are you taking this artist? They're like, one, we think the artist is cool. And plus, Rick took a shot on us when no one else took a shot on us. And I'm like, and that's who you want. I remember when Sugarland came to town, they were on my little tour, and next year they had sold out our casino, and I get a phone call, and Christian Bush and Jennifer Nettles wanted to take me to dinner to say thank you, because they said, we paid our bills that first year off of all the radio stations that you booked us on, because they were supposed to be released and brought to radio, and the label had ended up choosing another artist ahead of them. But while they were out on radio tour, I was calling people I didn't even know in different states. So now the Nashville to You tour was starting to branch out because I said, look, go to a club, get them to give you this. The band's going to kill it. They're going to love it. They're going to be huge. And they were like, we paid our bills because of what you did for us. And we've remained great friends to this day because of that.
That's awesome. That it's kind of the opposite of what they were doing with the major artists. It was like they're schmoozing the radio stations, whereas you're doing it for these new up and coming artists. And then in the long term, it's working out for them and for yourself.
But what it was doing too, Kyle, which I didn't realize at the time, was it was paving the way for me to see and build my own education on how radio responds to that baby act that shows interest in them. Because when Scott offered me the job, the first thing he did was he goes, I need Taylor out on your radio tour. I need you to go out and do in California what you did with her. Because by this time, I was then going to be the regional. All the people that had been on my tour, I was now friends with because I'd been bringing them artists for a year. We had great relationships. So when we took Taylor out on that tour and I was able to teach her what I had seen happen with other acts like her, I saw the mistakes that were being made. I saw the things that we could do to win. I saw what radio responded to, and I was able to teach her those things. And she was the student of all students. With her, it's like you tell her once and then she makes it her own. And that's what I love. Because I've told a lot of other people the same thing, but they didn't have the work ethic or the desire to want that Taylor had. They wanted, hey, I'm signed to a label, and they think, that's when they can just relax. No, that's when the work starts.
Yeah.
That's when the work starts. So
even artists now, and I find this in Nashville a little bit more, at least in country music more so, it's like they just want to write their songs and then go golfing. It's like they don't want to do the social media. They don't want to do the media. They don't want to do content, these extra things that in today's day and age with social media.
That is part of the job. That is part of the job today.
It's not just writing songs, recording songs, and putting them out anymore.
Well,
hoping for a record
if
deal.
you're lucky and if you've established yourself, yes. But if you're a brand new artist, and even now, I mean, Carly Pierce is a great example. Carly kills her social media game. Brett Eldridge was one of the first that just tore it up. Lady A's been using social media since YouTube came along. Yeah. That was their platform of choice, but you've got people like Keith Urban, Brad Paisley, Dan and Shay, Brantley Gilbert, Thomas Rhett's got a great social media game right now. If you are a business owner and you can have direct access to your customer anywhere in the world every single day, why would you not want to have that?
Exactly.
And that's where artists now, it's starting to shift. They're starting to understand that. They're starting to say, okay, wait a minute. All I got to do is just kind of post some stuff about my life, and that's the stuff that works. It's when the label gets a hold of it and just promotes, and every video's perfect, every video's perfect, every video's perfect, and the fans are like, wait, let me get to know the artist a little bit.
It's too cookie cutter.
Well, you've heard me mention this a 1,000 times probably, is that the consumer does not have to pay for your product.
Right.
They're going to invest in the relationship. Social media is just a relationship building tool.
For sure.
It's not a place to sell. It's a place to get the message out, get to know some folks, go like some other people's comments. We met with me doing Instagram Live. Yeah. All I had to do was say, hey, if you guys got a question about the music business, come ask me. They asked me a couple questions. I say, you know what? I'd love to send you a free copy of my book. Comment the word book. They would do that. Yep. The book would get sent. They would give me their email. Now I can build a relationship, and then I could make an offer. Then I could sell them something. But I had to earn, I always say, my job is to earn the right to get you to want to spend money with me. The artist's job is to earn the right to get someone to pre-save, to get someone to pre-order, to get someone to buy a ticket, to buy a piece of merch.
Yeah.
That what you're doing for them inside that social media platform is helping build that long-standing relationship is the way I look at it.
Special thanks to our presenting sponsor, DistroKid. DistroKid is a service that more than 2 million artists use to put music into online streaming services such as Spotify, TikTok, Apple Music, Pandora, Amazon, Instagram, YouTube, and any others that you can think of. They don't even take a commission and offer unlimited uploads for a yearly subscription fee as low as $22.99. As many of you artists know, this is vastly different from the traditional model, which charges you up to $40 per release. And on top of that, they take up to 9% of your sales and streams. DistroKid also offers automatic payment splits, so you can easily pay your collaborators or be paid if you collaborate with someone or work on a track or album if you're a songwriter, producer, feature. And for all you cover artists, you can even upload your cover songs for $12 a year on DistroKid rather than paying a per release licensing fee. On top of all of that, they offer several free promo tools for DistroKid members and have several additional services like DistroVid for music video distribution and Mixia, their instant mastering service. If you're curious about artists who have used DistroKid and want to hear more about it from them, check out some of the testimonials at distrokid.com/love. DistroKid's goal is to reach more independent artists so that they can get their music out there. Use our promo code THE1SHEET for 30% off your first year when you sign up for a new DistroKid membership. Again, that's THE1SHEET for 30% off your first year when signing up for a new membership. The book makes me laugh because I remember the note you written mine. I ordered it, and back then it was the same thing that you just said. You want a free copy of the book, all you have to pay is shipping.
Yeah.
And I didn't switch it from US shipping to Canadian shipping, but you still sent me the book, and I didn't realize, and the message in the book was like, Kyle, Canada's not part of the US yet, but I decided to send you a copy anyway.
What was interesting, that's too funny because what was interesting is it was like one price for US, obviously, and a few more bucks for international. Yeah. And then obviously I took it in the rear with some of the Australian folks and things. It's like $26 book, but you make up for it in the long run,
For sure.
But yeah, that's too funny.
But kind of building off the book, now I feel like another thing, kind of building off what we were just saying too, about artists not wanting to do the extra work. Nowadays, I feel like artists need to be doing their due diligence with books like yours or with even Music Industry 101 or just to learn the basics of business. Because everyone's out there complaining, oh, screw labels or bad deals. I'm like, okay, well, it's not a bad deal for the label.
Well, and blame your attorney. Don't blame the label. You didn't have to sign the deal. But
too.
There's even one more step, and this is what's going to be my focus in 2025 is that we taught a whole bunch of independent artists the business, and we taught them how to market. And they're marketing terrible songs. They're marketing a brand that's not consistent. It's like the A&R part, which stands for artist and repertoire, of who are you as an artist? What are your beliefs? Everyone thinks it's about fonts and colors and a logo. No, that's like the piece of hair that I was on Taylor's career. That's a piece of hair as far as the branding goes. No, it's more than that. So Ray Daniels and Ray was A&R at Warner, Atlantic, is involved with some major artists. He manages, as we're recording this here in 2024, this year's Grammy Songwriter of the Year, Tyrone Thomas. He's legit. And Ray calls me the white version of him, and I call him the black version of me. We are solutions-based. We are question askers. We focus on let's get the business right. We need artists today. This is independent artists I'm speaking to now, to spend more time on your building of you and your brand and your audience as much, if not more, than the music. The music, when you get to that label side, when you get to certain places, they're going to get you with the best writers. They'll get you with the best producers. Yeah. A lot of you have really good music that's competitive, but you have a brand that's not coherent. You have a brand that looks on this platform one way. On this platform, I didn't even know it was you. There's so much of that stuff that needs to go into it. And today, especially with labels, is they're having to now go look for these artists that are already a brand, that already are getting 1 million streams, that are already doing 100 shows a year.
Right.
They're looking to invest in small businesses. They're no longer in that startup model. So what we want to do this year is impact artists in a much more, if you were signed to a label, this is what the label would be doing for you, but we're now going to show you how to do it and point you in the direction to get those services. So I think more people this for me this year, more people should be offering label services at the beginning stages of an artist's career.
Right.
Because the problem the labels are running into is they see you pop off on TikTok and they signed you because your song went viral, and then they get you and realize, man, this guy's got a lot of work that needs to be done. This guy can't even play in front of an audience. And we had a couple artists, and I won't mention their names out of respect to them because it wasn't their fault, that got signed to a label. When you go out, especially in country music, they have these things called guitar pools. So what happens is every label sends their baby artists, they get on a stage, everyone plays their song, and you can see who's going to stand out and who. And Taylor killed the guitar pools, man. People love that. But this one artist was like, oh my gosh, he's awkward. He's this. So one of the jobs that I had after leaving Taylor, I was helping the artists get ready for radio tour, helping them learn how to speak in a conference room. Learning them how to talk to an audience of 100 people and then 500 people and then, 1,000 people. But more of that, I think, needs to go on. And that's something that Ray and I are really going to focus on next year. We're building out a course and a workshop for that. And then we're building out a songwriting course with Tehran, because now we have a Grammy Award winner that's going to show you how to top line, that's going to show you about melodies. You get to go in the studio and be a fly on the wall, because a lot of artists live in these countries or these cities that just don't have studios. They don't have producers. Well, there's things like BeatStars where you could go buy a beat. Well, great. You bought a beat. Now what do you do with it? How do you write to the beat? I'm going to focus my 2025 and what I'm calling the last leg of my career on the let me go find people that are amazing that don't know how to create courses and teach, and I will go interview them and get all the nuggets out of them, record it, and get that to the people. So that's what my 2025 is going to look like.
One of the biggest things when you bring up the labels there, it's kind of one of the biggest things I wanted to talk to you about.
Sure.
You've had so much experience in the industry and throughout the shifts in the industry. Artist development, when you brought up signing all these TikTok artists and just kind of throwing them into the fire. One, I'm going to use his name, Bailey Zimmerman, was one that I found. Love Bailey. I met him at a random barn party my first time in Nashville. How Nashville is that?
That's right. That's right. A barn party.
Yeah. Someone just turned this horse stable into a stage in a party room. Anyway, but Bailey blew up on TikTok, had great songs, but then when you put him in front of an audience, people were like, oh, he can't sing. I was like, well, he can sing. He just hasn't developed far enough yet to where he should be in front of an arena singing for these people.
And because his songs took off, and because he had an audience, that he's going out with Morgan Wallen and he's going out with all these things, and he had to learn by fire. It was crazy because that had to happen. And it's funny, there's a kid having success right now. I call him a kid. He's a 30-year-old man. He's a great person. His name's Drew Baldridge. And Drew and Bailey are kind of from the same area. And Drew, independent artist, funded his own, created his own record team to take a song that he wrote that popped off, that he wrote 3 or 4 years ago, just had the first song country radio by a 100% independent artist that funded his whole operation. He just got added to the country radio seminar they called New Faces Show, and not a label would touch him for the longest time. And I'm like, and I'm looking at it going, wait, this kid spent his own money, shows you his work ethic, has a great song. Radio loves him. And you're going to take a chance on somebody who had a song get 250 million views, who most people, and this is the sad part about socials, is there's a lot of people, the trending song and the song, but you wouldn't know the artist if they rode in the car with you. And that's where the labels are missing it right now. And what the labels don't have, and I was just actually brought in to kind of, help look at creating a system and process for this, was the label. The best analogy that I can use is that you've got this restaurant and it's thriving. Lines out the door every night. People know the menu. People love this one particular steak that you do. And I acquire this restaurant because it's thriving. But then I decide to shut the restaurant down, change the menu, change the look of the place. Everything that people fell in love with in the first place has now disappeared for a year, and then I come back with this whole new look and this whole new menu and expect it to pick up where it left off. The system, they sign you, they want you to remove all your stuff, or they want you to stop posting, or they want you to do all these things. They send you in the studio, you come back all dolled up, and now the label wants to own your socials and post all your stuff, and that's why it wasn't working. And trying to put a system in place where we can bring you in, keep it going, start, okay, now go spend some time over here with creative. Okay, now let's go work on this. Now let's go work on this. But to continue to keep the ball rolling is what, unfortunately, most labels aren't good at right now.
Yeah.
But they'll get there, I think, at some point.
Yeah, and with Bailey, you've kind of gotten to watch his development, and now he's awesome.
Great.
He's great. He's got the personality. He can sing. His stage presence has gotten way better. I mean, he always had the energy on stage. And there were some viral clips of him that went around on a festival setting where his in-ears went out and people were like, oh, he can't sing. I'm like, you don't understand what it's like to be up there and you can't hear yourself.
Here's what I say to that.
Either.
Okay, so Taylor would write songs that the audience would sing louder than she would. Bailey's audience knows his songs and sings louder than he does. It wasn't until she went on Jay Leno and there was no audience that it was just her that people were like, wow, her vocals aren't like Carrie Underwood's or Miranda Lambert's. Well, they weren't supposed to be. She was 17.
Yeah.
Women go through vocal changes. Most don't fully develop vocally till they're like 23 years old.
Right.
But when you have an audience that you love on so much, that loves your music so much, like Bailey did, like Taylor did, they're forgiving. The industry folks are the ones who are talking the smack.
Yeah.
And it's not his fans. And I always say, you know what? What are your fans saying? Who cares what some lonely ass person who has nothing going on in their life sitting in front of their keyboard has to type?
Yeah.
They're not your fan. They were never going to be your fan. Delete, mute, block, move on. But unfortunately, creatives will focus more on those 3 people that said he couldn't sing versus the 1,000 that said how great he is.
Yeah. And
that's why I always tell the artist, start focusing on who's in your world already and stop worrying about who's not. The right people will come along.
For sure. To the artist development that you were mentioning, because that's the biggest thing I think is missing from today's major label side.
But it's not their job anymore. They could afford to develop you when they were selling $20 CDs.
Right.
Now that everybody's splitting up percentages of a penny, it's up to the artist. And the artist should want it that way, because the longer you can keep creative freedom, the longer that you can keep releasing music on your own schedule. I'm working with an artist right now. Her name's Jordana Bryant. Yep. And Jordana is killing it.
She pops up on my social media all the time.
And that's because of paid ads. That's because of her posting all the time. We just got out of the studio with Nathan Chapman, who did Taylor's first 4 records. I had never sent Nathan an artist. Jordana is 19 years old. She's writing songs that she probably shouldn't be writing at this age. Vocally, she's absolutely amazing. She's her generation's voice now.
Okay.
She's not the next Taylor Swift. What she is I think she's the next artist who will have the impact on fans the way that Taylor has an impact on fans and the lives that she's going to end up affecting because of the way that she writes, the way that she delivers, the way that she treats it like a business. There's only ever going to be one Taylor.
Of course.
That business acumen, the way she thinks, the team that she's built around her is fantastic. She understands her audience, but she's 35. Who's speaking to that next 14-year-old and 15-year-old and 16-year-old? Taylor's first 4 records spoke to them. Well, this fan base grew up with Taylor. So Taylor can't go backwards in songwriting to try to please the 14 and 15 years old, because the 40-year-old that's been with her since she was in college wants these new records, wants the cussing, wants the darker side of things. This new audience needs someone who's going to speak about friendships and best friends and first loves and things like that. And that's where that lane that I think Jordana can go down really, really well. And the fact that she's building it on her own, where, she's already, couple 100,000 monthly listeners. She's already, I mean, we're doing Zoom virtual shows where we're selling 100 tickets at $10 a pop, 30 meet and greets at $25 a pop. She does them from her apartment in Nashville. And we have people from all over the world. And then she'll sell another $2,000 in merchandise.
That's cool.
That's what we love. You know, we have a direct relationship with our consumer, where unlike most people who sell tickets, we have the email address of the person who bought the ticket. Most artists don't get that. Most clubs aren't giving it to you. We know Ticketmaster's not giving it to you.
Nope.
We know, Live Nation's probably not giving it to the artist, but they have it.
Yep.
So we're trying to do everything we can, and everything I'm trying to teach is we need to control what we can control. We need to own our own real estate. We can use rental property like Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and whatever, but website, email list, how to build those relationships, how to create the relationship where someone will want to give you money at some point to help you support and then make you attractive if you do decide to go the label route like Jelly Roll did. Mm-hmm. Jelly Roll was already making millions of dollars a year before he got his record deal.
Yeah.
Then when you bring that type of business, you partner with the label. Yeah. You're a business partner. You're
Profit
not
share.
an employee. Mm-hmm. Much bigger percentages, less risk involved for the label. They're willing to pay more. The reason they take higher percentages is because they're usually taking the majority of the risk.
Yeah.
Hey, it's an 80-20 split. Well, they're taking 80% of the risk by putting up the money, betting on an unproven commodity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's why they get their 80 cents. That's why this is what you get.
And then you're still paying them from that 20% to the
That's
advance.
the part most people don't understand. I did a video on that, which was funny. I said, it's almost, and I'm not good at math, but I said, wait a minute, if $1 comes in and you've given me $100 and I have to pay you back that $100 and we just sold something and $1 came in, I would think I now owe you $99. No, I can only pay you 20 cents because you got to keep your 80 for taking the risk.
Yep.
So for every $1 that came in, I could only pay off 20 cents of that $1. So I had to make 5 to pay off 1.
Yeah.
And I was like,
you don't eat from that same $1 until it's paid back either. So
Correct.
If you blow your advance, you're like, oh shit.
Yep.
I don't have any money left.
That's correct. And that's why having these outside influences and resources and other money streams is super important. If you get those set up ahead of time, that's key.
The additional streams of profit of income are huge for me. And I see it majority of the time in hip hop.
Yep.
And you're a big hip hop guy, I know.
hip-hop.
So I'm going to love talking about this with you. You see it, 50 Cent, one of the biggest ones.
Yep.
He has his music, obviously, and now he's in TV, but he's had Vitamin Water, he's had G Unit, everything that goes along with the G Unit brand, sneakers, T-shirts.
Yeah, and
jewelry.
I think what's great is that the hip hop artists that I respect, they just have business acumen.
Exactly.
They understand. It's like he understood, I'll give you $100,000 to represent Vitamin Water. He goes, well, why don't you just give me a percentage and I don't need your money now. And I just take a percentage and then boom, it hit off.
Yep.
So by understanding business, and that's why the business part of it, once again, it's like we just talk about, it's like understanding true business, but there's various ways. Everyone wants to be synced. Well, so does everyone else. Everyone wants the same thing. When you can go in and do things that others aren't doing, because 50 Cent said, okay, while most rappers want the bag, hip hop term for the money, he's like, I'll get paid on the back end.
Yep.
Michael Jordan's mom did a back end deal with Nike. She wanted a percentage of every shoe that was sold. It was the first time they had ever done it, and Nike was like, okay, here, let's sign this. And now, it's history. So the more you understand business, the more you start to follow business and then can implement that into your business, the better off you're going to be. I'm going through that situation right now. I learned a very valuable lesson in 2024 is that my brain was, I'm going to do everything I can to help as many artists as possible. So I'm going to charge $97 a month. I'm going to show up every Monday, allow people to come on live, answer questions. As whoever wants to show up can show up. I'm not going to sell them a course. I'm going to give them all of my courses. My thought process was, hey, there's a lot of different ways to make $1 million. I'll just get 1,000 people in the world that feel having direct access to me for $97 is worth something.
Yeah.
What it did is it devalued my brand. They were like, what am I really going to get if Rick Barker, who launched Taylor, who works for the labels, who was the consultant at American Idol, who's done all this stuff, what's the catch?
Yeah.
So I didn't get as many people that came in on that $97 as I had planned to. So then I go and I offer a 3-month one-on-one coaching for $5,000, and everybody wants it. They're like, Rick, I just didn't think what you were offering for when they could have gotten a lot for that $97. But what I did is I devalued my brand.
Gotcha.
And I had to sit there and I go, okay, wait a minute. If I'm getting married and there's 2 bands, there's a $100 band and a $5,000 band, and this is the most important day of my life, I'm probably going to go with the $5,000 band because, you know, and that's what I didn't realize was that the perception that I was putting on myself was I had just devalued my brand. I wasn't attracting the person I could actually help. I was attracting either the person who didn't want to invest with what I teach. It takes investment. It takes ad dollars. It takes getting merchandise. It takes money to make money. Well, it takes money to run a business. And why artists think they're different is beyond me.
Yeah.
But
business.
It's exactly it. And that's the part that we really have to, that's where I'm apologizing to the artist who was this close to having this be the best year ever, that I did not make myself available to you in a way that was attractive, where you said, that's the guy that can solve my problem. Because I've proven with the right artist, with the right mindset, with the right music, my systems work.
Yeah.
But what happened is I thought I could help everyone. And I learned a very valuable business lesson. I almost quit music altogether and just went into the entrepreneur space where I could help business owners who already know what it takes. Because what I teach is, I could take it across any industry.
Absolutely.
And I get people now, which is fun. I work on little side projects. The difference is that I can sell something to a business owner for $997, and it's the exact same thing that I sell to an artist for $97, and the business owner will go, that's it. And the artist will go, dude, I'm a starving artist. You know, why are you charging me $97? And I'm like, I'm the wrong person for you. I thought I was the right person for them, but it took me sitting down and going, would I go spend $100 with the person that's the best? And it took my mentor saying to me, he says, Rick, let me ask you a question. Go online. Tell me if you can find a Ferrari for sale at a discount.
Yeah.
He said, you won't. He said, you're the Ferrari. And the people that want to drive Ferraris, that understand the cost of a Ferrari, are the people that you have the most success with. Why would you want to do that to yourself?
Right.
And then I argued, but Myron, my goal is, no, screw your goals. If your goal is to help the right artist achieve, you're not attracting the right artist because of what you're doing over here.
Yeah.
So record courses, let them have access to recorded courses for as long as they want. But if they physically want to touch you and you to put your hand on their business, you have to treat it like this is what you're getting, this is what you're doing, and there's a price that comes with that.
I know 2 other producers that kind of have just started doing the same thing. Rushdie and DJ Cass, they're out of Atlanta. Rushdie he owns his own record label, B Genius. He's partnered with UMG.
Oh, wow.
He manages ATL Jacob, Hendrix Smoke. They've worked with Rihanna, Nipsey,
Okay.
everybody in hip hop.
Yep.
And DJ Cass is kind of like the godfather of sync, I call him.
Okay.
Because he's got so many sync placements across all of his artists, and people will always.
Is he teaching it now?
They just released a consultation where you can pay to get consulted by
Great.
Rush
So I'm
or
going
DJ
to
Cass.
Atlanta in 2 weeks to film a course. I would love to meet them.
Sure.
I would love to meet them, because what my goal is to take people like that, help them, partner with them, and say, look, let me come. I'll create it. I'll edit it. I'll build it. I'll set it up. I'll market it. And here's your percentage.
I'll connect you with them for sure.
Yes.
So I don't think they've turned it into consistent thing yet, but they were getting so many people, like
Yes.
I'm sure you have. They're like,
Well, that's the point,
"Hey,
is they
can
could
you-"
only physically handle so many.
Exactly.
When we make ourselves duplicatable, yeah.
And Rush had to put out there. He's like, if you want help, you need to know that there's value behind it, and this is now the price of that value.
Yep.
If you want an hour, you got to sit down with me it's $100 or whatever
Absolutely,
it was
yeah.
for this amount of
Which
time.
is
for me
smart.
and I'm not guarantee you'll get a sync place.
You can't.
I'm teaching.
No, that's it. We can't guarantee anything.
Yeah.
We not with 100,000 songs being uploaded every day,
and millions of artists on Spotify,
and companies who only have writers that just write for the pitch sheets that they get that says, "Hey, this television show is looking for a song like this in this scene. They can't afford the Beatles, so do you have something like the Beatles?" And they'll go in and they'll create it in an hour, and they'll pitch it. So, yeah, I have a couple friends of mine that do really well in that space. The sync, but once again, they get 50 to 60-year-olds that just retired, that had been hobbyists, that have a catalog of music, that hear the word sync, and will buy this $5,000 course and think that they're going to get on every Netflix show that's available to them, and then their music's not set up properly.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. We kind of went that direction off of that conversation, going off of the artists and talking about labels transitioning to something else, because independent artists, I think, are in a better place than anybody right now. And you just mentioned Jordana, and there's all these independent artists that are also doing direct to consumer.
Sure.
So like stuff like Patreon grouped. So the reason I had asked if the labels need to change is because there's more incentive for artists to stay independent now, especially if you have like guys like Russ and Mike.
But they're the exceptions.
Sure.
An artist still needs, if they want to have global consistent success, not like a global hit because it was a viral global video, but if they want to get to here, they need the relationships, which most independent artists don't have, no matter who you are. Most of them are going to, like, Russ was smart because Russ would invest his own money. But if a label sees something needs to be done, they can drop $3 million on it right now. It's really hard for an independent artist to go get access to $3 million to pull something off like that.
For sure.
So depending on what it ultimately is that you want to do. But once again, I think even major labels are going to start offering more label services where they're like, hey, here's the deal. You bring it in. Instead of us owning the masters, we're going to license your masters for the next 7 years. Which that means you're giving them permission to make as much money as they can possibly make at whatever percentage structure that you set up. They will front the money. They will put up all this, and they're willing to do that because of a proven track record that a Russ. Now, Russ does now, I think, use some major label services, but he's still quote unquote independent.
Right.
So I think for the independent artist, I think you should want to remain as independent as you possibly can. And I was just listening to a podcast with an artist. She was actually on Ray Daniels' podcast, Artist Spotlight. She was independent 9 years, and she got a sync placement on a Spike Lee Netflix show. She was independent for 9 years, and now she's signed to Republic. And he said, what's the biggest difference? She said, the biggest difference, she said, I started off, I was my own manager. I was doing everything myself. I had to pay for my own production. I had to do everything, so I couldn't turn it over as quick. She goes, I would go rent a studio for 8 hours and knock out 3 songs. She goes, now that I'm with a label, I can take 3 weeks to work on a song. Yeah. She goes, I would have to pick and choose where I could tour based on the budget that I had as an independent artist, when now the label will put that up and allow me to hit more cities and do all those things. So I just think that focus on you. Everything else is a byproduct of the work that you put in right now. And if you think that you need someone else in order for you to go to that next level, this probably isn't the business for you, because no one wants to work with needy people. Yeah. You show up with, this is who I am, this is what I do. Not only have I created a spark, I've already created a fire. I'm just looking for someone to put kerosene on that fire.
For sure, which is what labels are.
That's what they are. Yeah.
And
they can get you from 70 to 100. You have to get yourself from 0 to 70. Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing is what you just described, of where you think the labels are going more towards licensing is big in the conversation right now. So I love that insight from you as someone who's been in the industry for that long, and going from artist development to acquisition to now still acquisition, but helping in a different
And the
way.
only thing I hope the labels change is I just saw a couple deals where they did sign someone who was already making $30,000. So the labels purchased a stream. Their streaming income was $30,000 a month. And they did the same 80-20 deal. And I'm like, no. And the artist thought it was great because they got an advance on it. And I said, okay. And the attorneys now, because everything's changing so fast, I said, no. I said, you have to understand, you can't do it just because that's the way they've already done it. It's like you're not taking the same risk on a kid you found in Abilene, Texas, who has played 3 songs and you thought he was great and your friend introduced you to him. You can't give him the same exact deal.
No.
Even when you're given advances, you can't do that. And an artist should not give up their income stream because now they have to pay those advances back off the 20% deal.
Right.
They just structured off their own money. Not
That's
good.
What was
not good?
Do you know the advance that artist got?
$200,000.
That's it.
Yeah.
And they're making $30,000 a month.
Yeah.
Who is that artist manager?
I'm
Who is
not
his
saying
attorney?
anything about
That's crazy.
anything.
No, I wasn't asking you to.
Yeah,
but I'm like questioning.
But a lot of these artists
holy.
at that stage don't have management. And then they go and they get an attorney, and attorney's like, oh, it's an 80-20 deal, and the attorney doesn't know. So there needs to be more education in the way things are happening. I just went in and helped the label, and a lot of recent graduates from a college here in town did not even have the basic digital marketing skill set to run a Facebook, Instagram ad, and they're not teaching that at the colleges. And I'm like,
that's crazy.
I'm like, and my pitch to the person who is the dean at this college, and they won't return my email, is I said, I will come in for free. You give me a 4-hour workshop with your juniors and seniors. I will give them the tools that they need to be hireable, that I just had to train 5 of your graduates on at a record company right now. I will do it for free. I just want the ability to record that day's trainings and have the ability to sell those trainings.
And they won't email you back.
They haven't even emailed me back.
That's crazy.
And I don't even think that they've read it yet, to be quite honest.
Wow.
But that's where I'm at. It's like I'm at that point where we as an industry have to do better. And sometimes we need to bring people from outside that understand what's going on and be okay that the people in your building don't know it because they're not supposed to. You know, I went in to help a label and I was having to identify problems. The problem was the person who had caused all the problems was still in the building and had been promoted. And they weren't real happy to give me back in to point out what they had been doing wrong. So I really couldn't fix anything. And me always being a manager first is like, if the artist and the managers knew this stuff was going on, they would be freaked. And if the majority of people in the world, so it's like part of me was like, I'm going to expose the industry. And another part of me was, no, because Jordana needs a fair shot.
Yeah.
And I don't want people pissed at me not giving her a fair shot. So when she takes off, watch out, town, I'm coming. Or if you want to have a private conversation, anybody can reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to share with that label, that person, whoever. But it's like we have to do better as an industry, as a community. There's a reason why people are always talking shit. It's because we give them the ammunition to talk the shit. And there's some simple changes. They're very simple, minor changes that could fix everything.
In terms of labels and A&R, there's a lot of people nowadays that have no clue what A&Rs do. And you, having worked with these labels for 20 plus years now, 30 years now. What's the biggest difference between what an A&R did back when you broke Taylor Swift to now in today's modern music industry?
Right now, it's the A&R back then had time to develop an artist. They really did, you know, and I love label A&R. I mean, when you give them the ability and the time to do what it is that they do, it's unbelievable. You know, they're hands-on, but, you know, there's a lot of things that they don't get a chance. I think that artists, when they come into the label, aren't spending enough time in A&R because A&R goes, oh, we just signed this person off of TikTok and now they get handed off to marketing, or now they get handed off to promotion, or hey, we need to get them in the studio and do this. A&R, to me today, they're not getting to do what they built this town off of. All these stars that you see right now were built by an A&R person,
right,
physically having their hands on them. They weren't built by the internet. Anyone who has a career was not built by the internet. Anyone in this town who has a career was built by an A&R person in this town that got them with the right writers and taught them how to talk to people.
Yeah.
Took the time to figure out what things were. Now the A&R process is being rushed when we pull them off of the internet. And that's the part that I wanted to come in and say, hey, let's let A&R get a handle on them. Let's go make sure that their brand's on point. Let's sit down and figure out if they even know who the heck they are.
Yeah.
I've got artists that have released 3 songs from a label and they're all different. And you talk to the artist, he's like, I'm still trying to figure out who I am. That would have never happened in the old model because A&R made sure you knew who you were. I don't think the A&R people in this town right now get enough credit for the work that they've done, for the superstars that they've built. Beyonce was built by a great A&R person. 100%. Taylor Swift had great A&R. Now, she did a lot of her A&R. Mm-hmm. She had a lot of input, and that's what I think great A&R is too, is when we start listening to the artist more and then use that expertise that you have as being an A&R person, because A&R is still the same. It's just they're not getting the time that they need like they did in the past. And then people are saying, well, A&R doesn't exist in Nashville anymore. It's not Nashville's fault A&R doesn't exist. It's the bosses of the A&R person. No A&R people run labels. If an A&R person did, that things would slow down a little bit. And that's okay.
Yeah.
If we want to build careers. So I'm all for A&R, and that's why Ray and I have our A&R course that's coming out, is because we're going to give independent artists the ability to do their own A&R and come in. If they do ultimately want to get to a label, we're going to give them and teach them the same things, because he was A&R and I know how to teach.
Perfect team.
Exactly. It's like I know how to teach. I know how to help you go build an audience. Ray and I both, I've always been involved in the A&R side. I love it because I'm all about, if we're going to spend money for people to find you, let's make sure it's right. Let's make sure you understand how to take advantage of that opportunity that I can help you create, and I don't rush the process.
That's one.
No one's getting salmonella from my chicken.
That's one side of the industry I really want to get into, is A&R side and the label side, because I love experiencing both sides and learning both sides.
Yep.
And I've had a little, not A&R side, but the other side of production on the TV side. So I'm like, I want to get it on the music side.
Just find a band and do it.
There we go.
And do it.
Rick Barker.
And then walk them into a label.
Thank you so much for
coming
thank
by.
You.
I'm glad this finally happened.
Me too. I could do another hour or 2 hours with you. We might have to do
We'll do it again.
Part 2, but
absolutely.
I don't even need those. I didn't look at them once. Sir, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For coming by.
I appreciate you.
One thing I'm going to get you to do before after we cut cameras, I'm going to give you a card here, and all I want you to do is write down, it could be a thought, it could be a piece of advice, it could be a mantra or a saying that you live by, that anyone in the audience that looks at you and wants to do one of the many things that you've done throughout your career, that they can take that and apply it to their own path.
Absolutely.
Their own career. Awesome. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, buddy.